Hi, welcome to this Excel tutorial video, and today we're going to look at returning data from a SQL Server database into Excel and presenting it in Excel. This video was recorded in July 2021 using Excel 365. So we've got data stored in all sorts of different areas, and it's handy for Excel to be able to go to different areas and retrieve data and return it and present it within itself within Excel. So I'm going to show you how we do that with SQL Server. So on screen I've got a blank Excel worksheet. I'm going to click on data. On the left hand side here I've got this option of get data, and for this purpose we've got a few options here, but for this purpose I want to click on from database and from SQL Server database. Now I've selected that. In a second I'm going to get a window that will ask me for the SQL Server name and for the database name. There it is. So SQL Server name is that, and my database name is that. I'm going to look at the advanced options in a bit, but just now we'll click OK. What this is now going to do is Excel is going to go to that database that I've put in there, and it's going to return me a list of objects in that database that are available for me to grab data from. So it's going to be views and tables. So in here there is a list of views and tables that I've got available to me, and I'm going to select a view. I want to get this view and show it in Excel. So it gives me a little preview here on the right hand side. I've now got a couple of options. I can load the data, which means it's going to go straight into Excel, or I can transform the data, which means I've got an opportunity to manipulate the data a little bit before it goes into Excel. Now, even if I click on load, I can still, when it's been loaded, I can still manipulate it and transform it in the same way. But for now, I'm going to click on this transform data to show you this new screen called the Power Query Editor window. And this window will present the data and allow me to do some manipulation. So in a second it should complete its work, and it will show me the data that is going to go into Excel. There it is. So there's my fields based on that view. Now, a couple of things to note. First of all, I didn't write any SQL to get that view. I selected it from a list. So in here, in this this bar here, if I click on the drop down, it simply says source, schema and item. So there's no SQL here. I just selected it, and this is how it's kind of represented within Excel. Now at this point I've got some options. I can add a column if I want to. So maybe I want to add a custom column. Maybe I want to add a column that's based on an existing column. I can do that in here. I can transform the data. So if I click on, let's say I click on this cell or this whole column, you've got this data type option here. If I click on, right now it's text for this, if I click on this column here, or this cell, this column, it says whole number because it sees what it wants to see. However, I can say no, it's not a whole number, it's a decimal, maybe it's a percentage. And equally, if I go across here to the numeric fields, if I click on one of those, it makes an assumption that it's currency. The assumption's correct, but I can change that if I want to. So I've got an option here of playing with the data types. There's also things, now I'm in here, and this is a currency data type. I've got options of here of doing rounding, of doing a bit of trig, of doing some sort of numeric manipulation. And it's the same in here. If I click on this text, I've got options of, well, if I right click it and, if I right click on the column header, I've got options of transforming the data. So maybe I want to make everything uppercase. Maybe I want to trim it, or just get the length of the field. So these are all text specific options. I've got options to remove duplicates. There's all sorts of options in here. I also have the option here to filter data. I don't want to do it just now, but I will in the example in a minute. What now I've made all my changes and I'm happy with the data as it is. If I go to home here and I click on close and load, it will close this window and it will load the data into Excel. It creates me a new tab for the data. So there's the new tab, and it returns the data to screen. Now right now my cursor or my the cell highlighted is within this table here. So while I've got that cell highlighted, I've got this new tab called Table Design. If I select away from that table, that tab disappears. If I click on that table, the tab appears. And this tab now allows me new options to do specifically with this table. So I can change the way it looks. Maybe I'll go for that instead of green. I can add header. Well, the header row is already added. I can add a total row. If there were numeric values here, I can add a total row. I can take the bandings off the rows and put them in the columns. So we've got all sorts of different options I can do here. Also, because the data's it's in Excel, it's in a table, it's automatically got these filter tags here. So I can click on this and I can filter the data as you would do in Excel generally. So let me just filter it to be Canada and Northwest. That should return 5 options, I think. There you go. So I've got these 5 here. Now you'll see I still have everything, all the other data here. So if I click back on that drop down here, I can still then say select all, and there's all my data. So now let us go back into the screen we were in before, and to do that we just double click on this section here. If I hover over it, by the way, I get this little window here, but I don't want to do, I want to double click it. It's going to take me into the Power Query editor window again. Let me just show you what I can do in here. So in this sales territory, we can do the same thing that we did in Excel. So we can say, I don't want all, I just want Canada and I want Northwest. And we'll click OK. That will return us the 5 values. Now I'll click on close and load. There's our values now filtered. But the important thing to note here is the filter isn't on this worksheet. The worksheet only has those 5 rows. The filtering is done at this level here. So if you want to see more data, then you just provide all the data to Excel and allow the filtering to be done in Excel. So I'll come back to here and I'll just remove that filter. And you'll see the way it's been represented here, the filter. So when I take this off, it should say each true, I think it says. Let me just click on the drop down, take my filter off. There you go. So it's taken the filter off and it's returned everything now. So, okay, that's one example. I want to show you another example using the same view. So when this is finished doing its thing, okay, I'll just, it doesn't really matter if I don't, I'll just click on data again, click on this drop down here, get data from database, from SQL Server database, and it will ask me again for my server and database name. Okay. Okay, and now I'm going to click on advanced options here. And in advanced options, you are able now to write some SQL. So I can write SQL, I mean, that's just a basic bit of SQL, but I could write something very, very specific here and be incredibly particular about what data I want to return and where that data is, and based on particular conditions. I've also got an option here of putting a timeout should I want to. It might be that you're writing quite a large script, and if it's going to run for over 30 seconds, it could cause problems. So maybe you want to put a timeout here so it automatically stops running after a particular time. And I don't need to do that for this example. So I click OK. We're going to get the same or similar looking window that we had in the last example, where we are where we're given options of either loading the data or transforming the data. So in a second, Here we are. There's our representation of the data. Now we've got a choice of loading it or transforming it. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. Click on transform and it will bring us back to our Power Query window, where we've got all the same options as we had before. So, but there's a couple of things I just want to kind of highlight here. So for one, we now have a query. So we've got this query, select star from. I really am unsure what that %lf is, but select star from my view was my query. Also, because we wrote a query rather than selecting an object, the name here simply says query 1. So I want to change that to say view data fiscal, so that we can identify it. And I'll show you why that's important in a second. We can do all the same things at this point here. We can do the same filters, add the same columns. Anything we could do in the previous example, we can do in this example as well. This is simply just a different way of doing it, and it allows you to be a bit more specific with your SQL. Join to more objects, put more conditions in there, that sort of thing. So I'm going to say close and load. So we should get a new tab called View Data Fiscal, and it should show us our data. This is all good. There's our data. Now there's a couple of things then about this. I've named the query 1 to be View Data Fiscal because on the right hand side I've got this queries and connections section here that has 2 queries, because yes, we've brought 2 separate queries into Excel, and they are identified differently using these names. Also, I'm just going to close that down. Also, now that we've got these bits of data have a link to SQL behind in the way that we've done them. So if the data was to change, I can click on here and I can go to data and I can click on refresh all, or refresh what I'm currently in, and it will go away and it will return me the latest view of data based on that table and how it's set up. Something else to note with this: imagine you've been given an Excel worksheet with multiple tabs, with multiple connections, and you have to deal with it and work out what each of the connections are doing and how they are working. So if I was presented with this worksheet here, or this Excel document, and it's got multiple sheets, and somebody said, right, you need to work it out and we need to make some changes to these things. First of all, you need to know what each of these data tables are, where they're looking, what data they are returning. And in order to do that, you go to your data tab and you click on query and connections. And when you click on that, it brings this little window here, and you can have a load of queries in here. And as you select, if you just click on one of them, it will take you to that sheet. See that? So, and then when you're there, you can double click it and you can go into the makeup of it and work out how it's built, what filters are there, what the data source was. So the data source settings in here, so it shows you the database and the server. This bit here shows you the object, and if it was a SQL statement, it shows you the SQL statement. And if I click on properties, click on this tab, yeah, okay, so in here as well, so if I just cancel that for a second, the last thing I'll show you, if we go back to this view data fiscal as an example, if I click on, if I click on properties, we've got some properties here that raw numbers, but there's a few bits and pieces we can decide on, but the point of me coming in here is to click on this bit here. So in here we've got this thing called definition, and definition ought to give us more information based on the makeup of that data table. So right now we've got a connection string that's pointing to our data source, but more importantly we've got this text here, this command text that shows us how it's been built. So if it is a SQL statement, you'll see the full size of that SQL statement. I think that's all I want to go through on this video. I hope it made sense as a kind of an introduction to getting data from a SQL database. If you've got any queries or comments, please, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, I appreciate your time. See you next time.